uni unrests costing higher education. Opportunists suspected in Uni Venture arson. Stakeholders in teachers' leave fairs speak on damning reports.
This is National EMTV News with Meriba Tulo.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us for Friday's news. The continued university students' unrest is costing the higher education sector financially, as well as PNG's international reputation as well. Higher Education Secretary Professor David Kavanagh gave this update at the second departmental heads meeting today. However, he said the situation is not all bad. Sarah Aupong reports.
The University of Natural Resources at Vodal is running. It's been running the academic programs for 2 months now. The Windward University is intact. Pacific Advantage University is intact. The University of Goroka, they've asked the students to go away for 2 weeks so that they can sort out the issues within the 2-week period. The University of Technology, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Albert Stram, is holding the place together. And full credit to him. He's holding that place together. And although the tensions are high, but we hope that commencement of classes has started this week, but slowly, that if that can be managed through, everybody should be in class by next week.
Their main concern now is the University of Papua New Guinea main campus.
At the University of Papua New Guinea, the School of Medicine is running full swing. The Open College of the University of Papua New Guinea running full swing as well. It's been unaffected. Postgraduate programs are running and at the University of Papua New Guinea, but it's just the main faculties.
Kavanagh told the meeting that for medical students, the unrest has meant those scheduled to graduate in 2017 will now be graduating in 2019. An unfortunate consequence of the unrest is damage done on plans to attract more international students to the country.
That dents our international reputation, so it is a major reputational risk for our universities, and we need to address it.
Apart from international reputation, the unrest is also placing a financial drain on the higher education sector.
Possibly 15 to 20 mil already. That's money that we could be spending in prioritized areas.
He indicated that academically, drastic decisions might be made soon.
We're coming to the end of that period whereby the Academic Senate will meet and then decide on the tenability of the academic program.
Sarah Aupong, National EMTV News.
Professor Kavanagh called for more political effort to complement the work of university board and management and his department to put an end to the current student unrests. He said technically they have done as much as they can and are stretched out, and a political process needs to start.
The problem at the end is not technical in nature, otherwise we would have found a solution. It is very much a political issue and a legal issue and requires appropriate conversation, I feel like a Melanesian conversation.
While departmental heads met this morning, another building went up in flames at the University of Papua New Guinea. The Uni Venture building, which houses the UPNG Publishing Office and PNG NRL, was looted by a faction of students and opportunists. The reconciliation ceremony scheduled for today was also cancelled while classes ceased at the main campus.
As a business entity, Uni Venture is mandated under the UPNG Act and responsible to raise funds for the university through publishing and the Uni Bookshop. A former worker who was at the scene said the manager, Dr. John Evans, had collected books on PNG history from around the world, and the books are valued at $500,000 converted to kina. That would cost almost 1.5 million kina. But that cost is only a portion of what went up in flames. PNG NRL also rented an office space there, and it contained office equipment, training equipment, school kits and reading materials that were part of the Live Long Life program. When contacted, PNG NRL said that it is yet to confirm the total loss. A statement will be released after further assessment on the damages. Evidence of looting was quite obvious around the building. Half-empty boxes and empty boxes that contained PNG NRL property were scattered everywhere, while printing cartridges were also scattered outside the burning building. One of the books contained in the Uni Venture office was Grand Chief Sir Michael Sumara's autobiography. The Sir Michael Sumara library was also stoned yesterday. Sir Michael Sumara's office was contacted. The Grand Chief is yet to comment on the situation. Adelaide Kari, National EMTV News.
The public has condemned the actions of students and opportunists following the burning and looting of buildings and the attack on uniformed security guards. A meeting was held this morning by students to discuss the unrest in the last 48 hours. Erika Rupma with this report.
Yesterday, the students damaged glass panels at St. Michael Somari Library, the ATM machine, and also burnt 5 vehicles. This morning, Uni Venture was burnt to ground and remains of burnt vehicles on the roadside. Many students and staff evicted the campus on fear of their safety. Students said the confrontation started yesterday morning when Uniforce attempted to enforce a betel nut ban on campus. A commotion erupted which saw Uniforce chased away by students and 5 vehicles set on fire. A forum was called this morning where majority of the students expressed concerns to refrain from damaging and looting properties. One parent has also expressed concern on the safety of students on campus.
It was not the university campus, you see, and I could not see a single security personnel on the ground. And it was very, very unsafe for the students. It was just left like that.
Erika Rupma, National EMTV News.
The Catholic Bishops' Conference of PNG and Solomon Islands has condemned the violence by UPNG students yesterday. Head of CBC, Father Victor Roche, says violence should not be used as leverage to solve the current unrest between students and the UPNG administration. Jack Lapauve Jr. with this report.
Head of CBC, Father Victor Roche, held a media conference this afternoon to raise concerns over the actions by UPNG students yesterday. Father Victor was backed by UPNG Catholic chaplain Father Joseph Watson, who has been instrumental in preparing students for a reconciliation program. Chaplain Father Watson said the looting and banning of properties has affected the planned peace process.
It's not the way where we will work forward. It is the peace that we are trying to bring.
The CBC General Secretary condemned the students' actions, stating violence is not the answer.
You have made your point clear by your protest. We have all heard it. All the people have heard it. The government leaders have heard your point, and it is good. And anyway, the things are taken care of now through the courts. Now the students have to go back to the classes.
Father Roach called on students not to take any further actions, but to allow the reconciliation process to take place.
Including the student body, we were looking forward to that. At last we thought we reached the stage of reconciliation, but it didn't come through.
The banning and looting yesterday at UPNG has disturbed a planned reconciliation process organized by the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Papua New Guinea and Solomon Islands. CBC head Father Victor Ross says students must not turn to violence and see this impasse continue. Meanwhile, in his statement this afternoon, he called on Parliament to resume and leaders to address this issue on the floor of Parliament.
The CBC appeals to the parliamentarians to go back to the Parliament. This issue, I think, can be better handled in the Parliament because I see now the situation is out of hand.
Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
You're watching National EMTV News. Among stories after the break, more on the teachers' leave fares following a report released by the Special Parliamentary Committee. Stay tuned. Welcome back to National EMTV News. Early this week, the Special Parliamentary Committee on Public Service Reform and Service Delivery, headed by Goroka MP Bireke Misopa, released 2 damning reports, one of which highlights glaring abuses in the payment of teacher leave fare entitlements. Copies of the reports posted on the committee website gives a detailed glimpse of the existing problem. Our lay bureau chief, Scott Wide, has been speaking to teachers and other stakeholders mentioned in the report.
Last year, the provincial government allocated 7 million kina for teachers' leave fares. It's an item that takes out a sizable chunk from Morobe's 300 million kina budget. A portion was paid to lay-based travel agents, but for many teachers, it's an arrangement that does not give them direct access to their entitlements, but in theory allows for the purchase of tickets for air travel to their home provinces. But the system hasn't worked well. Roland Kaina, a teacher who's been working in Ley City, says he's one of many teachers from the New Guinea Islands and their cost of travel is relatively high. His leave entitlements were paid to a Ley-based travel agency and he was unable to get cheaper fares on another airline through the same agency.
But last year especially, they did it that way, but I still have to go to another travel agent to purchase ticket with the same money. To get my family home.
So they wouldn't process your tickets there?
With travel agent, they cannot process that because the travel agent is an agent for New Guinea, which is quite expensive for me.
Mr. Kaina says he then requested for a refund in cash so he could purchase the tickets from another airline, but the travel agent still deducted a reported 15% in management fees from the 11,000 paid as his leave entitlements.
When we pay someone for a service, we should be getting service in return. But when 15% is deducted from my leave entitlement towards a travel agent, I don't really see any reason why someone have to get that money because I'm not getting anything from this travel agent.
The agent in question is Prime Travel, a locally owned business that operates out of Ley. Yesterday, we called Prime Travel to seek clarification on the questions that had been raised. We didn't get a response. Then we emailed Prime Travel, also highlighting the contents of the special parliamentary investigation. What we got back from Prime Travel was a response saying no comment.
Here in Morobe, we had teachers traveling the highway to Madang and up to the highlands. The leave fares were paid to the bus owners, in which the teachers had to travel by buses. But in cases where they didn't travel, that money was never refunded to them. 1, 2, they never got to travel. That money never went back to the department. Wherever it went, we never knew.
All those concerns have been captured in a detailed investigation report by the Special Parliamentary Committee looking into reforms in service delivery. The report also highlighted that the system is unfair, administratively cumbersome, and opens up opportunities for corruption. Sharon Tumonde points out that the system can sometimes be discriminatory.
So if I have to apply, I will need a head of family status. Unlike the male counterparts, our male counterparts get their full entitlement regardless of getting a head of family status. Whether they're married or not, it doesn't matter.
Earlier today, Morobe's Deputy Administrator Sheila Harrow, who's responsible for education and the social sector, told MTV that significant improvements had been made in 2015 in the management of leave fares. She said adequate funds have been allocated and travel organized by the administration. The administration is also expected to provide a detailed response on this matter at a later date. Scott Waide, National MTV News, Ley.
The PNG Nurses Association has clarified that nurses at Mount Hagen General Hospital will continue their normal duties and not take part in the industrial strike with doctors. Vice President Frederick Kebai told MTV News the decision is part of the union resolution that's not to support industrial strike or mass resignation. He said the industrial strike will compromise the lives of patients, which is against the nursing practice.
The Papua New Guinea Nurses Association has brushed aside recent media reports that nurses in Mount Hagen have gone on strike. Vice President Patrick Kebai, accompanied by General Secretary Edward Foy, clarified that nurses have continued with normal duties.
At this moment, they are working, all nurses on duty, performing their duties 3 shifts per day, and the punctuality attendance to the patients is up to date. So we just like to let the public know that nurses are still performing their duties.
Although nurses support the doctors going on strike, they will remain loyal to their call of duty with patients the priority. This follows a successful meeting with the nurses this week in Mount Hagen that diffused their involvement in the industrial strike. In the meantime, a resolution was passed with a 7 days notice for authorities to address this matter.
They would like to see the deputy CEO to go, director corporate services to go, and they want a caretaker, the caretaker management to take the lead. Mass resignation, actually 121 nurses actually submitting their resignation. But because of the resolution that we passed, we have invited them to forward it to us, which they have submitted them to us on Monday.
We work in close consultation with the National Health Department to ensure the plight of nurses are answered.
And the Health Secretary is very supportive of the action that we are taking. And by 7 days, we will not support any strike action, but we have advised them that the issue is now with us at the national level, and we are very mindful of compromising patients' life. That's the stand that we took.
The PNG Nurses Association claims this is a management issue which affects performance of medical workers. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
One of the demands of the Western Highlands Provincial Health Authority is for the immediate construction of nurses' accommodation. This was reiterated by the Nurses Association. Vice President Frederick Kebai said accommodation is an issue faced by nurses in Mount Hagen.
We want to know where those 2 million is, though there has been a groundbreaking. And so far, only 5 nurses are accommodated in the institutional allowances as far as the information that we received from the ground. Most of the nurses were working 3 shifts, living, at their own accommodation, providing 3 shifts. And I've already talked to the CEO, acting CEO, Dr. Mokela, to let us know where the 2 million is sitting. And the PHA also assured us to put some money on top of, to make sure that the accommodation is put up. But all we want from the PNG any level is they must update us whether those 2 million is sitting.
Member for Madang Open and Minister for Transport and Infrastructure Nixon Duban presented the acquittal reports for the Madang District Services Improvement Program and the Madang District Grant. Minister Duban was satisfied with the reports, saying the district has done a lot more interventions across different sectors than in previous years. He, however, admitted that anomalies may be found, as the Madang district has had the unfortunate political challenges in the form of 3 Court of Disputed Returns, a by-election and a recount.
The reports presented were for DSIP for 2014 and 2015 and the DSG for 2013, 2014 and 2015. Minister Duban said 9 months after his election win in 2012, he was dismissed by the Court of Disputed Returns and the Madang district was left without a political leader for much of 2013.
So, bulk of 2013, which is a critical year for preparation and implementation of development funds. As a member, I was not available, or there was no member available to oversee the sanctioning of Joint District Development and Priorities Committee to oversee priorities for the district. As a result, funding that went into Madang District in 2013 was basically at the discretion of the administration, who did not have a political leadership. When you don't have a political leadership, the district is placed at high risk.
The member then presented the DSIP and DSG acquittal reports and strongly recommended that the 2 reports be vetted and thoroughly scrutinized. He encouraged investigations into any shortcomings found and those responsible be dealt with accordingly.
We're very fortunate to have a leader who's put the team together, and the 5-year plan is forecast and is going there. So when we monitor it, we're based on that 5-year plan. In terms of the accountability and that, yes, Minister is showing that, there were a few public service issues need to be sorted out, which slowly, but all the acquittals are here. We will definitely go through. We have guidelines that we will look at, and then, of course, look at our, to consult our CEO and the executives in Madang, and we'll sort it out.
The minister was accompanied by the Madang District Development Authority CEO Martin Hannibal and Acting District Treasurer Matthew Sengian when the acquittal reports were presented to the Department of Implementation and Rural Development. Deli Waigeno, National EMTV News.
PNG's largest cocoa exporter, NGIP Agmark, has encouraged PNG cocoa farmers to support locally owned cocoa exporting companies. This follows the establishment of foreign cocoa exporting businesses that are tapping into PNG's local cocoa export market. While NGIP Agmark has welcomed foreign competitors, it is concerned about PNG's cocoa reputation at the world market, which is most likely to be lost. Edwin Fidelis reports.
In the last 8 years, it was a struggle for the PNG local cocoa exporters to meet the demand from overseas cocoa buyers. The impacts of the cocoa pod borer disease or CPB was enormous, pushing the supply to an all-time low. Until recently, the cocoa business is slowly getting back to its feet, but the industry is already facing a new threat yet again by foreign exporters that are tapping into PNG's cocoa export market. Agmark's export manager, James Narokai, has made a strong representation of locally owned cocoa exporters. He has appealed to PNG cocoa farmers to continue supporting local exporters by selling their cocoa to them, despite the presence of foreign exporters in PNG.
Because these local companies, like Agmark for instance, they are able to invest back in the cocoa industry in Papua New Guinea. Whereas most overseas companies will be here and they won't invest a lot into the cocoa industry in PNG. They more or less want to be here to make money, make profit.
The general sentiment shared by Agmark is that overseas exporters operating in PNG may have serious implications on the sale of PNG's cocoa in the world market.
As a local company, the main thing that we see is that we have seen over the past years that overseas companies do not necessarily they do not pay tax in the company in the country because being the nature of the type of business, they can make losses in the country and make profit in their own country.
While the cocoa industry is looking good at the moment, those in the forefront of the export business say the sale of PNG cocoa in the world market is not promising, with a new battle against PNG-based foreign exporters. PNG's cocoa market has been performing well in the post-CPB days, with a noticeable increase in the volume of cocoa last year and this year. But local exporters like Agmark and others say they want local producers to remain true to them so that the revenue generated from the sale of PNG cocoa in the world market comes back to PNG. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Kokopo.
In what is welcome news for mining in Papua New Guinea, the developers of the Feria River project have today registered an application for a special mining lease or SML. Mineral Resources Authority Managing Director Philip Samar announced the project's application for an SML, saying this was an indication of the high regard that PNG still held as a preferred mine destination. With the project developers lodging this application, this now begins a series of activities required before the SML is granted. This is the first application for an SML since 1999, when Ramuniko applied to develop the Ramuniko project in Madang province. The Feria River project is being developed by PANOST together with Highlands Pacific in East and West Sepik provinces.
An application doesn't mean that we provide the approvals within next week or 2 weeks' time. They must meet certain requirements, and that process takes time. And there is the stakeholder engagement that we need to engage in. There is the development forum. Between now and whenever the SML will be granted, from that point, there is a clear 4-year period up to the commissioning of the project.
And now a look at the finance news. The kina closed unchanged at $0.3160 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.3085, $0.4031 Australian dollars, $0.2681 euro, and 32.52 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold and coffee closed higher, cocoa closed higher, and copra closed the day lower. Palm oil and crude oil closed lower, while copper closed higher. And on the stock markets, the Dow Jones closed at 230 points higher, the ASX closed 176 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed at 174 points lower. In more news to come, the European Union responds to our report on the EU-funded building at Ballop Teachers College, and NID opens new office in Lae. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. The European Union says it will assist its partners, including the Ballop Teachers College in Lae, to resolve a situation in which EU-funded buildings completed in March be put to use. Even after issuing a certificate of completion, the contractor who built the dormitory and lecture room have not given the keys to the college administration. A response was made by the European Union and Regional Engineering Construction following yesterday's story on the delay. European Union in response said the Ballop Teachers College infrastructure was funded at a cost of 5.4 million kina. The project was officially handed over to the government on March the 18th this year by the Ambassador of the European Union. This was done in the presence of Planning Minister Charles Abel and education authorities. The EU says it will look into this administrative matter immediately and assist its partners to ensure that the facility is accessible for students as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the contractor, Regional Engineering and Construction, said the buildings were supposed to be used straight after the formalities. Efforts are being made to clear the confusion. A new Provincial Civil and Identity Registry office in Lae will now assist Morobe residents to have their birth registration processed and issued with their national identification card more quickly. At present, most people who go to register at the Civil Registry office cannot get their certificates because they are processed in Port Moresby. As Martha Lewis reports, the new office will start registering people.
Since 1997, the national government has called for a decentralized national identity and civil registration program to be rolled out in all the provinces. Following a NEC decision in 1997, the national government in 2013 decided to have a project to issue national ID cards to every citizen.
The most important decisions is really trying to account for every individual Papua New Guineans.
Provisions for the national ID was included in the Civil Registration Act. In March last year, the PNG Civil and Identity Registry system was launched. It has taken almost 2 decades to have the program introduced. Morobe is now one of the 10 provinces to roll out the concept.
All provinces can have the birth registrations conducted, and every citizen should be registered in the province. That was since 1997.
Among other things, this new office will register marriages, deaths, status records, and births. It is a legal responsibility, therefore the office is required to record your personal information in order to issue the necessary documents, including the proof of identity and status documents.
The instruction is that ID card is now the utility.
The National Identity and Civil Registration Program so far has registered 150,000 people and has issued 52,000 national ID cards. The system will also be connected with the payroll system before the end of December. The Department of Personnel Management has issued instructions stating that all public servants before being hired will have to have a national ID card. Therefore, all public servants in the country are required to register. Acting Provincial Administrator for Morobe, Masayang Mohat, is appealing to the 1,800 public servants working in the province to register. Mata Luis, National EMTV News, Lae.
700 soldiers from the 1st Royal Pacific Islands Regiment at Tarama Barracks in Port Moresby have had sessions on international humanitarian law and human rights, facilitated by the International Committee of the Red Cross. It is aimed at preparing soldiers for peacekeeping duties overseas. While plans for sending soldiers overseas are still in development stages, the military remains under-resourced to participate in such deployments.
Plans for sending PNG soldiers to international active duties, including the United Nations peacekeeping missions, may take longer before a full platoon is deployed. In 2011, after the National Parliament passed the International Obligations Bill that allows soldiers to take part in international peacekeeping missions in troubled countries, only 4 PNG soldiers were sent overseas. The 4 are currently based in Sudan as peacekeeping observers. But as plans are in place to have soldiers deployed overseas, there are areas the force needs to improve on. Manpower has to be increased, new weaponry is needed, armored vehicles, technology, and the welfare of soldiers improved. PNGDF Commander Brigadier General Gilbert Toropo says the steps to actively take part in the UN peacekeeping missions may take a while.
We are working on building our capacity in terms of recruitment, as well as improving on our uniform weapon systems and air and maritime capabilities to help us effectively support troops who will be deployed abroad.
Battalion 2nd in Command at the Taroma 1 RPIR, Major Posoi Benjamin, says international duties will be tough in the first 3 years of operation, but the force is looking forward to active duty.
When we start purchasing all those ad-skin vehicles, new weaponry systems, then we'll be able to start sending peacekeeping forces into hostile nations all over the world.
Recently, 700 soldiers from the 1 RPIR underwent sessions run by the International Committee of the Red Cross on international humanitarian laws to understand rights of people affected during armed conflicts and their roles as peacekeepers.
It's a really positive sign that the PNG Defence Force has asked us to do these things. It shows that they have a real commitment to professionalism, and it shows that they understand the importance of PNG soldiers understanding international humanitarian law and international human rights law.
Quinten Alom, National EMTV News.
Here with National EMTV News, Trukai Sports is next. Former NRL star Matt Bowen arrives in town. The Hunters ready to take on North Devils, and Taekwondo athletes prepare for Rio. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Former NRL star and Cowboys fullback Matt Bowen flew into the country today on a personal visit arranged by sponsor Trukai Industries. Bowen currently holds the record for most matches played for the North Queensland Cowboys.
Bowen left the NRL in 2013 to link up with English Super League club Wigan Warriors. During his time in NRL, Bowen was the top try scorer in the 2005 and 2007 seasons. Former Queensland and Australian captain Darren Lockyer called Bowen a little freak, citing his skills and dynamism. And two-time premiership winner coach Phil Gill remarked in 2005 that he was a modern-day icon of the game. Some of his feats have redefined what was once believed to be impossible. Using his wealth of experience and leadership in the NRL, Bowen will spend the next couple of days in Port Moresby, where he will visit schools and private institutions, giving out awareness on child bullying and the harmfulness of drugs.
You know, you can always say no to drugs and bullying. You know, it's not part of any school. Or if you've been bullied, I'm sure you get someone to talk to, but if you're a bullier, stop it.
At Bavroko Primary, Bowen was met by the applause of primary students who saw their NRL star in person for the first time.
Definitely, you know, went to Abagari for 6 years. I board there for 6 years, and you know, education is a big part of you know, rugby league. You know, you may not think about it, but you know, I was lucky enough to obviously get a good education at Abgary, and it sort of helps in the long run. So yeah.
The Cowboys legend was accompanied by a couple of Hunters and Harlequins players who also gave encouragement speeches to the students on the importance of staying in school and working to achieve certain goals in life, and playing footy is only a part of a lifelong journey.
A lot of what Matt said is very important. Education, it's important. You can come from a small community like Matthew and you can be successful, and that goes back to your dedication and hard work, and it starts from where you are.
The prestigious World Cup trophy was brought with them to show the Cowboys' dominance in rugby league, in which Cowboys won from the World Club Giants against English Super League premiers Leeds Rhinos. Shane Saroya, National MTV Sports.
The PNG Hunters will play North's Devils in Brisbane this weekend. Coach Michael Marum says they will be a tough side to beat, with a few Brisbane Broncos to join the team for this weekend's clash.
Marum says they played the Devils last year and beat them twice, but with a lot of new players in this year's team, they have become a tougher side.
And that'd be really hard to beat them. I think they've called on a few of their Broncos and Melbourne Storm boys to back up too. So, and again, it's going to be a tough one here.
They will be sticking to their basic game plan to take on the Devils.
Yeah, the start last week was probably better than the other 2 weeks, but yeah, no, we want to improve on that. Okay. So we've done a video review and all the stuff today. So, and yeah, we want our big guys taking control of the game, whether we're defending or attacking. We want to start well and then make sure all our backs can go forward with the ball.
Co-captain Noel Zemming will go through final medical examinations to see if he will be able to play this weekend.
I still have to speak to the physio, and depending on what he says, maybe we're not probably going to play him this week. Maybe play Stargrove off the bench, starting at centres. But yeah, no, we got a lot of injuries, but we've been managing it. Some boys are coming back now. So Timothy Lomai next week, Brandy Peter will be back again next week. So yeah.
The team leaves tomorrow for the Sunday match at Bishop Park in Brisbane, Australia. Elijah Levet, National MTV Sports.
PNG will be represented by 2 athletes in Taekwondo at the Rio Olympics in August. Both Samantha and Maximilian Kasman are training in Adelaide, Australia, and will join the rest of the team PNG in Brazil. National coach Edward Kasman is adamant the duo have a chance of performing well at the upcoming Olympics.
With only a month and a half to the Rio Olympics, Samantha and Maximilian Kasman from PNG Taekwondo are currently training in Adelaide in preparations for the Olympic Games in Brazil. Recently, the Kasmans competed at the Caboolture Open in Queensland, where Maximilian won gold in the 68 kilograms division and silver in the 74 kilograms, while Samantha won gold in the 67 kilograms division and silver over 67 kilograms. The duo, auntie and nephew, will be based in Australia to the 7th of next month before they travel to Miami to join the rest of the world teams and also compete at the Los Angeles Open. Both athletes will leave the US on August 3rd and travel to Rio before the big games kick off on August 5th.
In July next month, we go to Miami for training with some of the world teams and athletes there. We stay there, fight maybe the Los Angeles Open. Obviously funding permits. And then we go to Rio on August 3rd.
Meanwhile, domestic clubs around the country are gearing up for the 7th BSP PNG Games set to take place in Kimbe. Kasman said he is hoping to see more improvements in this year's PNG Games, and the number of participating provinces should increase from 12 to 15.
We've got all the equipment needed. It's now whether or not the athletes have been trained, the updated information and training skill level. It should be more challenging this year because of the inclusion of the electronic socks and electronic chest guards.
Godwin Aki, National MTV Sports.
Don't go anywhere. True Guy Sports continues after the break.
True Guy Sports.
Welcome back to True Guy Sports. Cricket development programs in the country have been put on hold due to recent international matches being played that have affected the cricket calendar. Cricket PNG says the programs will be back on schedule at the end of the year and at the start of next year.
Cricket PNG's development program for both all abilities and girls' empowerment in the country has been put on hold due to recent international matches. Despite the hold, cricket development teams recently visited Madang and Mount Hagen in the first two terms this year, carrying out awareness on cricket development in the country. Cricket PNG have so far worked with 13 schools, but have only covered 5 of the 13. Cricket clinics and coaching lessons were carried out, including some fun activities with the students.
We've had a lot of influences. We have a lot of interest that's already been taking part with us. We have students that have really enjoyed our program. So we've seen a lot of participation compared to last year. So I think we're having a big impact on the schools now. So hopefully we can get huge numbers next term.
She said Cricket PNG will continue to carry out the program to other centres outside of Port Moresby to develop the code. The program should be back on schedule towards the end of this year and early next year. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
In a recent visit to West New Britain, Minister for Sports Jacinth Chechenko said the upcoming PNG Games in November will greatly benefit Kimber Town. The minister attended the opening of the first proper boxing ring in the township ahead of the Games.
As the country prepares for the PNG Games at the end of the year, Kimber Town will be the centre of attraction when the Games reaches its shores. Minister Chechenko was in Kimber for the opening of a proper boxing ring as they prepare for the upcoming Games.
The infrastructure so far that I've seen that is being constructed here will be, when completed, world class. And West New Britain, you should be very proud that it's going to be money well spent in infrastructure development in your province. Not only for all the sporting facility infrastructure, but also all the schools are being upgraded as well as part of the PNG Games.
As part of preparations for the Games, schools in Kimber will be upgraded as well.
If like big mamas, this confidence, you come, now show him people here West New Britain and to the country. That 7th PNG Games is definitely happening in West New Britain and in my beloved Kimber Town.
West New Britain Governor Sasindra Mutuvel thanked the Minister for Sport for his continuous support to the province for this year's PNG Games. The Games will be an exciting event which will draw athletes throughout the country for 2 weeks of strong competition. Dion Kombeng, National EMTV Sports.
And then in Strukai Sports, we'll have for you the weather details when we come back.
Strukai Sports. Strukai Sports.
Here's a look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Evening showers expected in Port Moresby and Alatau. Showers in Daru and Papadeta. Evening rain in Kerema. To the Momasi region, a shower or two in Ley and Wau. A few showers in Madang. Showers and thunderstorms in Wewak. Rain and showers in Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, showers and thunderstorms expected in Lorangau and Kavieng. Some showers in Kokopo and Rabau. Few rain and showers in Kimber. The same in Buka. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundia, Wapmendi and Wabeg, you can expect some showers with morning fog. And that's the way it is this Friday, the 24th of June 2016. From the EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.